both presented at the IPM conference in Sun City. And some say that Dr. Harlan's presentation was second only to mine, okay? But one thing I will say, and joking aside, Dr. Harlan presented directly after me, and I am being authentic when I say this. If you were to say that he and I had spent hours preparing in advance so that our actual presentations would sync, it actually looked that way. I mean, because we spoke the same language. We were passionate about the same things. We were passionate about economic opportunity. We were passionate about the base of the pyramid, okay? And when I talk about the base of the pyramid, and you're going to hear me speak about this a lot, is how we create opportunity for marginalized persons, the young, the youth, the people that don't get a fair chance. That's what we want to do, okay? So I'm here today, I'm going to talk to you about what we've been doing for the last, I've been at LinkedIn 6 years. My focus has been purely on economic opportunity for countries, regions, cities, okay? And I've got a great example for you that I'm going to walk you through today that comes from the country of Colombia. And I think this is probably the most relevant one, because if we look at population size, we look at the youth demographics, we can show you how if you focus and you invest in this demographic, you can make a change. You can actually drive an outcome, okay? So I'm going to drive you through a couple of things today. First thing is I want to explain to you what LinkedIn is. So what gives us the right to be able to play in this space is the fact that we have something which is referred to as the LinkedIn economic graph, okay? So the best way to look at that is that's the data warehouse or the data engine of all interactions on our platform, okay? That's a lot of rich data. Fundamentally, it tells you what's happening in an economy. It tells you what's happening in a country. It shows you what employers are employing. It shows you the types of employees they're looking for. So when we engage with a country or we engage with a region, we engage with facts, with real-time data so that we can apply the right decisions when we engage with the population, okay? So for example, when we look at Paarl here, we're looking at who the employers are. We're looking at what the jobs of tomorrow will be. We're looking at what those skill sets will be and what skills they require of candidates, okay? So when we go to address the base of the pyramid, we immediately know the kind of skills that we're trying to embed in the community, okay? So it's, again, unique real-time data to inform the journey, okay? Now, why Paarl and why South Africa? One of the things you'll actually hear, or you'll see here is, from a membership base rate in Africa as a continent, South Africa is miles ahead of everybody else. So that means there's more people on the platform. And with more people on the platform, it means that we have more employers, we have more demographics, we have more data. And with that data, we know what the future looks like, okay? We know who the employers that are growing, we know the skills that they'll require, and as a result, we know the people that are coming through the school system as well, okay? Because most of these kids are on the platform. Some of them are not. They're not all on the platform, but this is what we're going to solve, okay? Now, one of the things that we do as well is we partner extensively with multilaterals, okay? So the likes of the World Bank, African Development Bank, European Central Bank, Inter-American Development Bank, World Economic Forum. I think every presentation you've probably ever seen, you've seen a quote from either OECD, World Economic Forum, or one of those data think tanks, okay? They get their data from us because fundamentally we're the only real-time source of economic data coming from our platform, okay? So our data is really valuable, and as part of any partnership or how we engage with upskilling, closing skills gaps, empowering the youth, it's always data-driven, okay? So we know what we're doing. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to make this experience personalized for the learner. So the very first time they engage with LinkedIn Learning, they feel like this content has been curated just for them, okay? It's bringing them on their journey, it's surfacing and it's signposting job opportunities. That's the other key thing that I'll talk about today. You will hear and you'll meet lots of providers that can provide learning content, and they are fixated on learning. And learning is very important, but learning on its own doesn't actually measure up. because we've moved as a country, we've moved as an economy, and ultimately the only thing that matters is the outcome. And the outcome in this instance is, how do you find employment? And fundamentally how we measure our success is employment. So again, going back to the Colombia example, that's why it's going to resonate here today. It's going to be eye-opening for you, because what we measured our success based on is how we help people transition from unemployment, from what we call the black economy or what we call the low-skilled economy, into higher-paying jobs. So a fundamental transition. I got some data as well. I was doing some research in regard to the current unemployment situation in South Africa. And we'll touch on this in a couple of different ways. One of the frustrations that I feel is lots of economies, lots of governments look at upskilling the youth. They look at upskilling populations. But the problem we have is they are not addressing the base of the pyramid. And when I talk about the base of the pyramid, these are the forgotten people. These are the people that do not get the opportunity. It's easy to focus on the top of the pyramid. I've done it, LinkedIn has done it. You're essentially working with the IT industries of a country. You're ensuring people close a very, very specific skills gap and they find a job. It's a great story, but ultimately you're not addressing the base of the pyramid. So when I speak with Dr. Harlan and we talk about our passions and how we want to create economic opportunity, we're talking about the base of the pyramid. We're bringing opportunity to people that have never had the opportunity. And this is why this story is going to be so powerful. Okay? Now, I'm going to preempt the question that someone here is going to ask me very, very soon, which is, what about the people that are not on the platform? Okay? Because some people will not be on the platform, they won't have LinkedIn profiles, and therefore they will not be in the ecosystem. And this again is why Colombia is such a great example. I flew to Colombia in 2019, just before the pandemic. They had 2 million members on the platform. 2 million. Today they're 14 million plus. The reason being is we incorporated a concept which is build it and they will come. What we did was we made job opportunities available through LinkedIn. With the job opportunities, the communities came on board. We got people jobs as drivers, security, cashiers, service, cleaners, all the jobs that are traditionally not on the platform. And as a result, you know how it is. These communities are tightly knit. You get a job through LinkedIn and suddenly 10 people are on the platform. So we've almost 7x'd our population on LinkedIn in 4 years, 4 to 5 years, which is unbelievably successful. And I like to take credit for that, because I was the first person that went to Colombia. I was told to be safe, Colombia is a dangerous country, but it was an amazing opportunity and something that I will take away as being one of my greatest impacts from a country point of view. Okay, so let's get into the examples here. We could spend an hour or so going through this because we had economic impact there. To this day, it's having an impact. But what I want to focus on is how we did it and how something similar can happen in this region. What would it mean in this region? Okay, so we looked at a couple of things. We looked at reskilling, upskilling, closing skills gaps, creating employability. Now, we did address the whole area of foreign direct investment, but what we did not see is the engagement with multinationals. Like, multinationals heard of the Colombian initiative. It was one of the market leading initiatives at the time. And as a result, companies were attracted to Colombia, the open basis. One thing we saw, and we could measure this data, is when we looked at our interactions, we could see that venture capitalists from various different countries were engaging with the population. They were engaging with employers. That's something we'd never seen before. It's something we were not expecting. So it was a wider economic impact. Okay? We upskilled 600,000 people on all skills, from IT to creativity to what I call essential soft skills. How to communicate, how to engage, how to work. For people who are not in employment, they need to understand fundamental things like, what is a 9 to 5? What's an 8 to 6? What does an employer expect from you? You've all heard it. Employers say, when I take on a new graduate or new apprentice, they don't know what it is to work. I've got to spend 6 months, 12 months, 18 months onboarding these people. So with our focus, we were able to onboard these employees an awful lot faster. Okay? The second thing I wanted to highlight as well, and this is very important, it's inclusivity, okay? The one thing we see internationally is that females do not get the same opportunity. And there's a number of reasons that that's the case. It's because typically learning happens in a in-person environment. With something like LinkedIn Learning, you're moving to online. It's digital learning, so it's inclusive, it's accessible, and as you can see here, it's a significant impact on the gender disparity. Colombia is leading the way, not just from a South American point of view, from a European, from an African point of view. Okay, so this for us was a significant step forward. In summary, there's a couple of things to highlight as to what we achieved in this initiative. The first one is that we upskilled 600,000 persons. Okay, so we gave 600,000 people a better opportunity. The opportunity to do something for themselves, to better themselves, to provide for their families, okay, to enter the workplace. That's the fundamental thing we achieved. The second thing, as I said, we had over like almost 5,000 interactions in the first 2 years with global venture capitalists. These are the people that will be investing in the country. These are the people that will be backing companies. And the reason they're doing that because they're seeing a skilled workforce. They're seeing a workforce that they want to engage with. The other thing as well is, okay, we can't forget the likes of our apprenticeship programs, the likes of our students, the universities, people that are coming into the workplace, ensuring they have the right skills, ensuring they're closing the skills gap. Digital skills, I think if we look at, I mentioned it earlier on, the multilaterals, the World Bank, African Development Bank, etc. They're actively highlighting that regardless of the country, be it Ireland, be it the UK, be it South Africa, there's a significant digital skills gap. And without addressing that digital skills gap, we're going to be lost in the world of digital transformation and AI. So everybody requires a certain level of basic digital skills. And again, this is one of the focus areas. And that's as simple as using email, using Word, using Excel, how to use a computer. It's really fundamental basic stuff, but you would be surprised, lots of people haven't had the opportunity, haven't had the time to invest in themselves. And then the other thing is we helped hundreds of thousands of people find jobs. Not only did they find jobs, we helped people move jobs. We helped people find jobs in different industries. One of the things I'm very passionate about is finding the youth here. Give them an opportunity to find their way into the wine industry. Okay, how great a story is that we can come back to Paarl and talk about the local community. We've given the opportunity to enter an industry that maybe is not that open all the time. Okay, so we've been able to do that. The thing as well, what we've been able to show is when you move industry, you can generate a higher income. So again, providing for yourself and your family. So that's very, very impressive. The second part of this overall solution was the employability. So this is what I was talking about at the start. Education is amazing. Everybody needs education, but education only stands up so much. What is fundamental is when you educate somebody, you need to bring them to the next step. And that next step is employment, because that's how they provide for themselves and their families. Okay? And this is what we did. We centralized the jobs in Colombia on LinkedIn. As you'll know, LinkedIn is the leading platform when it comes to jobs. Okay? When you put a job on LinkedIn, you get far more traffic, far more engagement. It makes it inclusive for everybody. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to ensure that nobody's left behind. We need to ensure nobody's left behind. Everybody has an opportunity. And again, going back to what I think your question might be is, I don't see jobs for drivers. I don't see drivers for what we classify as people that typically are not qualified, skilled, have qualifications. Every other country, we have those jobs. We proved in Colombia that when you put those jobs on the platform, not only will you get engagement, you'll get 8 times the engagement that you would do for a white-collar job. Okay? So these people are crying out for the opportunity. And we as a country, we as, for example, your Department of Labour or your employment agency don't do a good job at actually helping people find the opportunities, because there's actually a wall between them and the opportunities. So again, it's the accessibility and the inclusivity. When you remove that barrier, people will engage, people will look for jobs, will find jobs, will engage. Okay, and we were able to prove that in Colombia. This was specifically focused on the youth, specifically focused on marginalized groups, societies, women, people that have largely been forgotten, as I've touched on previously. So this is what it looked like. It's just a screenshot. Apologies, it's not a great screenshot, but fundamentally what it is, it's the equivalent of, for example, the municipality of Paarl, the region of Paarl, surfacing all the jobs in the region on LinkedIn. So that when someone goes to the municipality, they see the available jobs. Now, where the learning component becomes really interesting is, if we were to make learning available to the population at scale, let's just say we made learning available to 50,000 people here in Paarl. As they are learning, improving their skills, and bettering themselves for the future of work or life in employment, they're going to see the jobs that are available in Paarl or in the region with the skills required that they have or that they are building. So I'd like to call it just a one-stop shop. Nobody else can do this. We will surface the job opportunities that they may be interested in that match their skills. This is what we did in Colombia. We signposted the youth, we helped the youth. In many instances, together with the Department of Labor, Ministry of Labor, we coached these youths so that they could actually find the jobs. And we ended up finding hundreds of thousands of kids jobs. But again, what I'm most proud of is the fact that we found people jobs in industries and in occupations that are largely considered not to be on the platform. So we definitely addressed the base of the pyramid, and that's what it's all about. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of people talk about sending the elevator down. Have you heard that concept? So sending the elevator down, it's what everybody in this room here has the opportunity to do. So we're all considered to be professionals. We've achieved a certain amount in our life. But the problem that I see is when we send the elevator down to give other people opportunities, we do it far too late in our lives. We should be doing it from day one. It's creating opportunities for everybody. Dr. Harlan spoke about it last night. It's our job to deplete ourselves, transfer the knowledge, give other people the opportunity so that they can achieve, so that they can meet their expectations. But as I said, I speak to business leaders all the time, and they don't talk about sending the elevator down until they're close to retirement. It's too late. It's too late. So that's the opportunity we have. Just to summarize a couple of things here, this is what I keep talking about. Look at the top 10 applied for jobs in Colombia on the back of this initiative. There's some white-collar roles for sure, some professional roles there for sure, but what I'm really happy to see is a lot of what we call entry-level roles as well. Okay? And the other thing about this as well is, and this will be the economic impact that we'll see in this region, you'll move people from the black economy into tax-paying roles. This was during the pandemic as well. So if we can do it during the pandemic, imagine what we can do in a climate where unemployment is dropping. So this is the opportunity and this is the now. So you've probably, actually, firstly, let me ask you, how many of you have seen this announcement? I'll take that as a yes. Have you seen this announcement? Yes. Okay, great. So we've started on this journey. We're passionate about upskilling South Africans. It's one of our target markets in Africa. We're doing it in South Africa, we're doing it in Kenya. Okay, these are the two markets we've prioritized. Now what I will say, and I'll be truly authentic here because I don't want to pull the wool over your eyes. This is very specialized, it's very targeted. Okay, so we're talking about AI skills, we're talking about cybersecurity. So therefore, it's 1 million people, which is amazing. But these are people that are largely in the IT industry, people that are on a journey towards jobs in the IT industry. Okay, so we are closing a significant skills gap that will help the South African economy to compete globally, but it's unbelievably targeted at what I would classify as white collar. Okay, it's not what we would regard as the base of the pyramid, and this is why, together with this initiative, LinkedIn is going to come in here and we're going to directly address the base of the pyramid. We're going to work with the people that have largely been ignored, the people that have not had the opportunity. And we'll be able to talk about the impact that we have on local communities. Like, as I said, potentially getting people into the wine industry. The reason I keep talking about the wine industry is because I've done this before. We partnered with the Argentinian government and the region of Mendoza. You'll probably know Mendoza create a very good wine, which is Malbec. Not as good as South African wine, but it's close. But what we did with them is 25,000 local people from the area of Mendoza were upskilled so that they could find a way into the wine industry. An amazing story again. And it was funded by the World Bank. So there's appetite here to do these things. But how great would it be a year from now to be able to say that we've helped young people with limited opportunities find a way to employment in a local indigenous industry? So there's no way you were going to get away without me poking some fun at you, all right? Okay? And I stole this from Dr. Harlan. You are the home of rugby. You're amazing champions. I have to say that. It hurts me to say that. It hurts me a lot to say that, but you are. And everyone knows that Paarl is the home of the Springbok. It creates the most successful Springbok. Okay? Yes. I like it. But let me flip it for you. How about this? Do you want to be known as the place in South Africa that took this into your own hands? Yes, you do. You want to create this opportunity. I mean, I'm speaking to, I'll be very open with you. I spoke with the mayor of Cape Town yesterday. We're speaking about this. We've spoken to Johannesburg. We've spoken at the presidential level. We've spoken at the government level. Everybody wants to do this. But who's going to pull the trigger? And I know who I want to back. It's you guys. So, yeah. So thank you very much for your time. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any. Sure.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. Just share with us, how did you get people with low literacy and low access to IT technology, to the computers, to access the platform? Because obviously the link is access.
Yes, excellent question. And that's the foundation stone of success. It's essentially through these guys, CETA. It's your training and apprenticeship program supplier or administrative office. They're the people with the captive audience. They know the people that, like, you know, they're trying to help, that they're actually upskilling, that they're aiding on various different programs.
Again, that's just one step further. That, you know, there's most of our youth don't have access to computers.
Yep.
Don't have access to data, to be able to access the LinkedIn opportunities, to access the training that's available on the platform.
Yes.
How do you achieve that?
Yeah.
Or how did you achieve that in Colombia?
A couple of ways. It would surprise you how many of the population have smartphones. It really would. Not just in South Africa, but in all developing economies. But the fundamental part of this is we have to work as a municipality. So making computers through the libraries, making them available through the libraries, through the employment offices, through the various different multidisciplinary organizations that will support an initiative like that. Because you're right. I mean, some people might not have access to electricity, may not have access to internet access. So this is a combined effort. It's not just simply LinkedIn making the content available and off you go. We've got to come together on this. And in Colombia, we did have, this was from the presidency all the way down with a number of different agencies and players. So we had the Ministry of Labour, we had the CETA equivalent, we had all the local. So when you went into rural areas, for example, you're totally reliant on your local library or your local employment office, because that's where people will come to. So again, you got to remove that border, that barrier to entry. And it's a great point, because without that, and without us actually thinking how to address this cohort, this audience, we're going to fail. You need to remove that barrier. But again, the nice thing, even in the rural areas, we do have areas that people can come together. We have areas where they can get access to internet. And the beauty as well of LinkedIn, if they have a smartphone, they don't need internet access. They can download content when they're, for example, in the library and access it offline. So we saw a lot of that going on in the rural parts of Colombia, because Colombia, again, very rural country. Outside of the major cities, it's mostly rural with no connectivity.
Yeah, just a quick question from me. You spoke about the Colombian example, but obviously you guys did not create the jobs. The jobs have always been there. The vacancies have always been there.
Correct.
So any thoughts on the importance of social capital?
On social?
Capital. How do young people access opportunities if they don't have a social connection with a possible employer?
Yeah, that's a good question. And again, I kind of go back to the example I gave, which is the community aspect of regions. So what we saw in Colombia was when we first started putting on, say, driver, security, cashier, service level roles, initially it was slow in regard to the application rate. We saw people looking at it, but we didn't see the applications. But what we saw is again, it's the concept of build it and they will come. So we saw people finding jobs, and then suddenly we saw the numbers go through the roof in regard to people creating new profiles. And again, when we look at kind of like the communities that we're trying to address here, they are a community, okay? And largely the word of mouth drives people to the platform, which essentially makes them inquisitive and makes them to actually look and see what's available and how they could potentially enact. Because we know it's like the person you meet in the square or somebody you meet as you're walking that they found a job on LinkedIn. That's how we drove those people on the platform. But funnily enough, I mean, that was the biggest concern the Colombian government had as well, is that would the people that are not on the platform, the people that may not have the connections, don't have, we talk about network. We talk about the fact that the stronger your network, the better your employment outcome is going to be. And these are people that typically don't know people that have organizations, that don't create employment. So how are they going to fare when their network is very, very shallow? But we saw the opposite. We saw that people were actually very engaging. We saw that people were willing to try. And when they saw success from somebody that they knew, it drove their intent as well. Sure.
Thank you very much. I've been on LinkedIn for 5 years now. I've got close on 25,000 followers on that. And I think I got hit about 20 to 30,000 people read my post a day. But South Africa is unique, and I need to tell you this. We have two economies that run parallel to one another. And government has been focusing on the formal economy for the last 30 years to transform it. And it's no surprise that it's a failure, because that economy since the mid-80s has not been working, which means it can't create sustainable jobs. It never will be able to anyway.
Yep.
So the future South African economy is a digital economy that rather looks at integrating the formal and informal economies through digital tools. Right? So that's what should emerge over the next, I think, 5 to 10 years, some of the stuff we're working on. But LinkedIn and future South African job creation does not lie where the LinkedIn professional operating. It lies in that informal economy. And in that informal economy, there's a phenomenon that very few people are aware of. Thousands and thousands of illegal foreign nationals are streaming into the country for one reason. They're streaming into the country because our informal economy inhabitants can't compete for more than 250 billion rands of SASSA grants that the government pays in every year. Now, if there was a strategy to convert the 250 billion into R1 trillion over the next 10 years, or 5 years for that matter, it means that we have to begin to understand what the circumstances look like in an informal economy through entrepreneurship. Now, unfortunately, having been on LinkedIn, spending an enormous amount of time building, a repertoire on it, I'm very aware that LinkedIn doesn't cater for the informal economy. And I like what you're doing with your Instagram type of video that's being introduced a few weeks ago. But LinkedIn is just not suited for informal economy growth, which is where the future of this country lies. Foreign nationals are sending out of this country collectively annually over 100 billion rand tax-free. Do you know how many jobs can be created in South Africa if we had the ability to compete for that effectively? So unfortunately, LinkedIn doesn't provide for that. And what we need to do is engage on similar platforms or engage with LinkedIn people to understand, to make them understand what the local circumstances are about. And I think, if you're here to sort of investigate that and to understand that there is an intrinsic know-how of South Africans in an informal economy to survive, then the future of this country actually is quite bright to address poverty, unemployment, and inequality through digitalization.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything you've said. And I do think that South Africa as an economy, there's a journey that you're on. But you know what? You're not the first person to go on this, or the first country to go on this journey. I even look back at Ireland. We would be seen as one of the most progressive countries with a strong economy, one of the highest GDPs in the world. But you look back at Ireland in the 1980s, a very, very different place, massive black economy. I mean, I've often heard my parents' family talk about, our friends talk about, the 80s in Ireland were great, no one paid any tax. That's not great. It's not great at all. But if you look at it now, I mean, everyone's paying tax. There's a very, very, very small informal economy. But your point's right. I mean, you're on a journey. It's a journey that's going to take a long time. But what I would say to kind of complement what you're saying is, and back to Dr. Harlan's point, we need to take control of this ourselves. We need to move the needle in any way that we possibly can. And there is a way for us to actually move that needle and to grow. So, but your points are right, and I totally note them.
Thank you.
Sure.
May I continue?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Just on your example of Colombia.
Yeah.
And the target, of course, was those what we call entry-level jobs in terms of driving that also for LinkedIn. Now, was there any particular campaign by yourself with the government to actually drive, whether it was the companies or the job seekers for those entry-level jobs to the platform? Because yes, we can do that, but the question is, we must make them aware. And what medium did you use in terms of making them aware of that? Then, secondly, as the service sector, we do our annual research on the jobs in high demand, also try to predict what the jobs of the future will be. Will a collaboration with yourself actually enhance our research output to ensure that we have more accurate in terms of research for us to determine what skills that we must fund? Thank you. And also, will you be interested in a collaboration with the service sector in doing that? Thank you.
100%. Yes, we want to partner. We want to partner with everybody in this room. That's why we're here. But to address some of your questions, the Colombian government did actually focus specifically on industries. Okay. Again, going back to our data, one of the unique opportunities we have is to benchmark, for example, the South African economy versus the US, versus Dubai, versus Saudi Arabia. We have that data. So, for example, let's just say, going back to one of the questions here, we all know that digital is the future. We know that AI is the future, and we know that AI is going to influence many industries in different ways. Okay, we know those industries will create opportunities and create jobs. So therefore, one of the things we did, and the Colombian government did this, is they very much courted employers to say, we're going to be sending a lot of people your way. We're going to be helping you find and close, because some of these industries had open roles that they couldn't close because the people did not have the right skills. So there was a focus very much on specific industries. Like, as I was saying, what we were really surprised, because we were not expecting, is the impact we had on the base of the pyramid. Like, we thought that we would drive all sorts of outcomes for the white collar professionals, the IT, the banking, All those industries, we said, no problem, we're going to be unbelievably successful. But as I said, what came our way was finding people that were never on the platform, jobs. So that's the second thing. But the data is everything, okay? So when we look at, for example, the average person in South Africa, the skills that they have, we can do a benchmarking versus the skills they should have. And as we were talking about cybersecurity and AI and digital skills, we already know what those skills are. Like there's a base core set of skills that people require. Without those skills, they're not going to, they might be able to enter the industry, but they will not thrive in the industry. And that's the opportunity we all have. But again, as I said, the likes of CETA, that's our partner of choice here, because we know that you have a captive audience. We know you're actively engaging with an audience. What you need that data to determine what are the small little tweaks that you can make to your current offering to ensure you find people effective employment quickly. So yes, that's what we're all about.
1 second, I was supposed to wrap this up now, but I saw one more hand. So I want to give this gentleman just the opportunity to ask his question, so we can, because I didn't give any indication that this was going to be over, and I don't want to cut you off, sir.
Thank you so much. Good morning. So it was all good and well hearing that Paarl is the rugby maker or the capital of South Africa. But unfortunately, there are some challenges that we're still experiencing in terms of sport. And how do you think LinkedIn can play a pivotal role in using sport as a way of driving sustainable community development agenda? The unfortunate reality in our valley is at this stage there is a big gap between the top tier teams and the teams at the bottom of the pyramid, and specifically those teams that really try and drive the agenda of community development. And corporates, unfortunately, are at this stage not always willing to cross the Rubicon and help those teams, the marginalized ones, to create economic stability in our community. So that's one of the bigger challenges there. The corporate will most likely go to the top tier teams, your bigger names in this valley, and we've experienced it, and really forget about what's happening at the bottom of the pyramid. So what are the opportunities from a LinkedIn point of view that you see that you could add value in closing that gap between the top tiers and the bottom of the pyramid?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spoke to the radio this morning about this and community development. And it's the ability to externalize all the great things that you're doing. So that social impact initiative. In this current climate, everybody wants to sing from the rooftops as to what they're doing to contribute to society. So when you kind of make yourself open to, hey, we need a sponsor, we need someone to help us, we need nets, we need boots, whatever, you will be surprised as to how the employers engage with you. But again, you got to bring that message to the platform. A lot of people expect, like, hey, I'm going to knock on your door and say, do you need boots? No one's going to do that. You need to be bold. So, for example, the community radio, they provide an unbelievable resource because they communicate what's happening in the community. They talk about what's happening, what's needed. But the same thing with sports. Sports bodies, sports teams need to be on the platforms talking about, hey, you know what? Our teams are playing on Sunday and we don't have boots. We would love to have engagement with the local employers to help us out here. And they want to be involved because it's great for their social impact. And they want to talk about it. So again, I think it's almost like a little bit of marketing and communications at the sports level as well, maximizing what's available. But thank you very much for your time. My team and I are here this afternoon, or this morning. We're happy to have conversations. There are just 4 of us here today, so come grab us. Happy to have a chat. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.